Hey, and welcome back. This is Folo Patterson with Folo's Convos. This is part two of my conversation with my special guest this evening, Troy R. As you may recall, in the first part of the conversation, we really got into um, the depth of our relationship and how we came to, be brothers. And was it brothers in arms? We definitely were that. But also to how God has blessed us to be able to grow beyond that space into the relationship we have now. All those things are key and essential to what we're discussing, which is the book Looking Through the Fall, because all that's based around the lens we looked through at that time versus the growth of our journey while we're together. And even now, here it is years later, and our relationship is even stronger than ever as we have ventured past that point, but able to look back and reflect on who we were during that time, how God blessed us, how He kept us, how He, equipped us, how He grew us, but also now bring us to this point of going forward and being able to share um, conversation about this book. It's interesting because you and I had conversations about me doing a book of some sort. It had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
This was not even a thought in my mind
Mm.
in regards to this novel. But I knew I wanted to write something at some point. For me, I think it was initially about finances or whatever,
Right,
but
right.
those seeds were already there. And I think we've had many conversations about what it would look like, and you know, um, the opportunity to be able to talk about it after the fact. And here we are, 9 years later, actually having a conversation. So once again, before we go any further, please check us out at www.followpatterson.com. Looking Through the Fog is sold in paperback as well as ebook, so it is really accessible through all major retailers. There's nothing but a thing to click the button, grab a copy. Please do so because it will bless your heart and your soul. Give a friend a copy. Share with everyone because it is something that you need to read. I have never taken the time to actually read anything out of the book in the prior conversations that I've had. So tonight, I'm going to actually read the introduction. And Troy, if you have any input on what I've read afterwards, please feel free to do so. But let me go into
Okay.
the introduction. Greetings to you as you embark on this literary journey with me. I am not under the delusion that I have written the eighth wonder of the world, or that I have uncovered insight that has never been known to man. The prominent and prolific Christian author C.S. Lewis once wrote, "An author should not conceive himself or herself as bringing into existence beauty or wisdom which did not exist before, but simply and solely as trying to embody in terms of his own art some reflection of eternal beauty and wisdom." In parallel to the words of Mr. Lewis, I am simply and solely trying to embody some reflection of eternal beauty and wisdom through the art of this story. Another way it could be said is there are no new stories to be told, only the expressions of the storyteller. This is definitely not a self-help book, nor would I primarily label it as a religious book. Nevertheless, the very foundation of it is definitely built upon an absolute spiritual relationship. This story will not display my non-existent expertise in psychoanalysis or point out all the technical complexities of the human mind. Instead, it highlights the improbable intertwining of two lives and the profound impact of that mergence. Although the characters, locations, timelines, and events are fictional, this tale is inspired by parts of my real life journey. I honestly believe that many people think the way I once did and can relate to the lens through which these characters see life. We live in a world of perception, and that perception shapes the very core of how we live our lives. I hope that when you read my story, you will identify or recognize similar mindsets within yourself. In discovering those similarities, hopefully it will cause introspection and accountability. There was no perfect human being before Jesus Christ, nor has there been or ever will be one after. This simply means that we all need tweaking, some more than others, and some even more than that. The moment we believe our perception is good across the board, we have deceived ourselves and something has gone undetected. Even as I write this, I will rarely admit that I am yet a flawed individual, and in some form or fashion will always be. However, my goal is to continually strive for perfection, which makes me more sensitive to and accountable for my thought process, hence helping me to become more susceptible to fine tuning. The ideal becomes that we begin to ask questions of ourselves that we don't always want an honest answer to. This is not to say that everyone is living in the fog. Some have figured it out. However, what if you are one who thinks they have figured it out, or who realizes that they have nothing figured out at all? May the forthcoming story not only be engaging and entertaining, but also bring about insight and motivation to facilitate change. First spark, then flame. Nothing remains the same once you know his name. Folo Patterson.
Amen. That's right. That's good. That's good. That's powerful. Powerful. The part that I like right here is when you say it's the motivate. Wait, see, let me start from here. Where it say bring about insight and motivation to facilitate change, and that's what this book will do for you. It will make some adjustment in your life. This book is a life changer
Hmm.
because you can recognize yourself in this book somewhere or another.
Mm-hmm.
So by me not want
It's
to
up
go
and
in and
how
give it and give it away, I'll just let it go and marinate. But I'm telling you, you need to get a copy. Y'all need to
let it
get
simmer
a
for a minute, man.
copy. You need to get a copy, man. I'm telling you guys, it's worth it. Life changer.
It's interesting because when I first wrote the introduction was initially based upon the book being a memoir. I've said multiple times this book was originally written as my own personal story of my journey through incarceration and how the realization of the importance of perception jumped out at me. There's so many layers have been peeled back in my life, and it all centered
Right,
around how I seen things, and I seen it as a
right,
reflection of those around me. So my introduction really spoke to kind of laying the foundation for that. When I had to
right.
change the book to a fictional book, I really didn't want to change the introduction a lot because the things that were said in the introduction stood true, but I had to still craft it to be able to fit, the fictional story that was coming about. I'm sorry, I think that I was able to still keep the bulk of what I wanted it to represent intact and
Yeah,
still, identify the fact that this was a fictional story coming forward. But I really believe that it lays the foundation for what people are about to read, even though they don't realize it yet. The introduction
yeah.
don't really give you a whole lot of insight into the story that's coming,
Mm,
but it's really about,
exactly.
look, prepare yourself.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
it's not what you think it's going to be. And
Right.
I believe people kind of gloss over that when they first read it because they're just trying to get to the beginning of the book, but the introduction is so significant because it's telling you you're going to go on a ride, and if you really take this ride,
Exactly.
you're going to discover some things along the way.
Exactly.
even
Exactly.
when even when I went into writing the chapter names, the chapter names ironically were things I put in place before I even put the story in place. I
Mm,
had an idea what the story was going to be, but I didn't know how it was going to unfold. But these names stood out for me. So chapter one, who am I?
hmm.
Chapter two, reality check.
Yeah.
Chapter three, what does it weigh? Chapter four, more than meets the
More
eye.
than this. Exactly.
Chapter five, perfect storm.
Right.
Chapter six, beyond comprehension. Chapter seven, free walking inmate, and so forth and
Mm,
so on.
right.
The titles themselves had such a representation on its own. The
Yeah.
content had to fit the bill.
Yeah.
So as you begin to go through reading, because you was able to read a rough draft first. So
Right.
as you begin to
Yeah.
go through the experience of reading a rough draft and seeing what it initially, actually you've read both versions, right? You read the memoir too.
Exactly. The
So after
memoir
reading
first.
the
Yeah.
memoir, and then now you reading the fictional story, what was that introduction, or what was your experience like going into this now story that had been laid out versus me telling my own story.
Well, as you were saying with the introduction, it brought me to the fact that I was thinking of the same thing when with the introduction. I'm thinking first when I first started reading it, it's been like, okay, then this is just another prison book where somebody's speaking about their experience, what they went through in jail or whatever. So
Mhm.
my first reading of it, that was my mindset already immediately, not knowing what I was getting into
Mhm.
in further end. So, I started skim through the first, chapter, and I mean I was reading the whole thing, and then but it take a 180-degree turn to, I mean, like just like that. I'm like, wait, what? So I have to go back. I have to go
Uh,
back and try to recognize to see
rewind.
if there's something, yeah, if there's something that I'm missing where I don't understand what's going on. And that's
Hmm.
basically how the book kind of like grasped me. So the
Yeah.
first time when I get the original copy and purchase it, when it came out, I read 9 chapters straight,
Off the rip.
off the rail. It just grasped me and grabbed me, and I'm just going. Even though I have the privilege to read the memoir in
Hmm.
before,
Hmm.
but this is like it's like a whole new door has been opened to my mind where I was like, okay, then my mindset was about, yeah, okay, then this is was another one of those book, but I was wrong
Hmm.
because when I get into the whole situation, I mean, it just like it's a whole life changer, man. I'm telling you,
And,
it's just
and
surprising.
that is the kicker. Everybody who reads this book initially, when they read first chapter one, the first thing they think is that it's a book about prison, and it's
Right,
absolutely is not.
right,
But because there's so much effort put into establishing Thibodeau, people
yeah,
automatically assume he's the main character, and this is going to be the progression of the book all the way through, when it's
right,
only laying the foundation for a much bigger
exactly,
story, right? So I like the ideal that is not necessarily misleading, but the preconceived notions are like crushed and washed
right,
away once to
right,
get past the initial, right? Because
right,
now
right,
a whole new world opens up, and these other characters are involved, and they say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't see that coming." I love that effect that it's had.
right,
But you
right,
you had mentioned to me that your two favorite chapters are chapter 3 and chapter 4, correct?
right, exactly. That's it.
Tell us why
Chapter
is
three.
that. Chapter 3,
Chapter
chapter 3
three is
is
who,
what does it weigh?
what does it weigh, and chapter 4 is more than meet the eye.
So share with us, why is chapter 3 one of your most favorite chapters?
Chapter
Without
3 and
giving away
chapter
too much
4.
detail.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it, in perspective that I know that chapter 3 and chapter 4 is dealing with Gabe. I can
Hmm.
say that. Yeah, and I can relate to the encounter that you encounter with Gabe in the yard at that
Hmm.
moment. I can say that, and I s- it's when I'm reading it, it's like I'm there witnessing what's going on between you and Gabe at that moment.
See, now you keep saying me and Gabe. You mean Thibodeau and Gabe?
I mean,
See,
Thibodeau. You see, you see,
what's up, sis?
every
I'm
time
sorry.
I knew it was come out. I knew it would come out, like that. I knew it. I knew it. I told you it was because I keep saying it the same thing because we're coming from the same place, so we kind of
Right.
like recognize that, and that's the reason why I'm here. But Thibodeau, excuse me, Thibodeau was the one. Even Thibodeau met with Gabe in the yard. That's something that I can relate to, and I can picture the whole scenario that's playing between you because that's basically what you and I was when we was in county.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, sharing what we study.
Hmm.
You know, you know, you know. getting excited when we get to certain study, and we were so anxious to
Right.
share what we got and like what we study and we just getting into it so much, and it kind of remind me of us at that
Hmm.
moment. So with that encounter, what Gabe was to Thibodeau, you were to me
Okay.
in that manner,
Okay.
because basically that's where I fed off you when we start getting into studies of the word, and the study wasn't even about really Bible study. It was the preparation for us to
Yeah.
prepare us
Yeah.
back out into the world.
Yeah.
And that's what I was basically the reason why chapter 3 and chapter 4, based in on with Gabe and Thibodeau interaction. It's amazing. I'm telling you guys, you need to get that book, because I'm just so, my mouth is just ready to tell you exactly what's going
They're
on.
like, what's this game you talking about? What interaction? What are you talking about?
I'm ready to tell the whole thing right now. But I mean that encounter, and with that, I want to say this, so other maybe can, when Gabe saw an encounter, he saw a need
Hmm.
for with Thibodeau. When Thibodeau went there and sat on the bench or where he was, and he saw a need, and he went right over there to meet that need.
Hmm.
That's what we are to be with each other.
Yeah.
You see, and that's the beauty of it.
Hmm.
Because if it was allowed, we wouldn't get this journal from you,
Yeah.
because you were uh, Thibodeau was so distraught of what happened that he
Hmm.
didn't get what's coming to him,
Right.
and he was so discouraged. His discouragement would stop him in his track of continue writing the journal.
Right.
But Gabe interaction put back life
Hmm.
into the situation, and
Hmm.
spark that spark that Thibodeau got. And when he went back to his cell, that got him to continue to get into the journal and ready to go in, because he started getting the deeper into the whole situation. So that's, if it wasn't for Gabe, I'm thinking that Thibodeau would be
See, look. Okay, look what you wait. Look what you just said though. Here's the kicker part. That is so true. Because
Mhm,
here's the thing. Imagine a ripple effects that would not have taken place
mhm,
if that joy and enthusiasm for him to express what he was experiencing didn't happen.
right.
Now that void that needed to be filled later on would not have taken place because there wouldn't have been the content there available. The resources wouldn't have been in place at that appointed time. Oh man, see,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. But
Yes, sir.
it's key is to recognize how the enemy will use things to discourage us in a particular space that we are in. And we're so
Exactly.
focused on that particular space, we don't realize that if I don't shake this here and now, it's going to affect this or that or someone down the line. Because we don't know how God wants to
Right.
use or bless us for the things we're going through. We're just focused on what we're going through. That's why the
Yes.
ideal of recognizing how important perception is a necessity, because if we're not able to identify and understand these lenses that we look through, they're going to continue to be debilitating to us, and they're going to
Exactly.
continue to be hindrance to us, and not only to us, but it's going to stop us from being a blessing in some form or fashion to others that we can't even see or recognize at the moment.
Exactly. 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 That's
But
true.
like you say,
That's true.
Gabe stepping in reignited that spark for him,
Right.
which motivated him to continue to write down his experiences, which
Right.
had effects that he could even imagine that was going to take place later on.
Exactly. And
So
that's
how
the
has it
whole deal.
affected our life now? You
Right.
know what I mean? The
Yeah.
things that we're going through, your experience going through the whole incarceration thing, the
Mm.
situation you're in now. How does that now become a catalyst and a motivator for you going forward? How does me doing 9 years and still being able to produce this book, what now comes from that because of being able to push through it and not allowing the enemy to rob us of what God has in store for us? And that's what I love about the potential of this book, because it equips us or even gives us a glimpse into seeing what tearing down those barriers can look
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
through these fictional characters.
Right.
you
Right.
know the space that Tyler is in is comparable to mindsets that we all have had. Now, you've made the
Exactly.
comparison before how it's about relationships and couples,
Hmm.
and you being a single man, you can relate in one sense. But this is the one thing I would say in regards to the ideal of it being a story about this couple. True enough, it is.
Yeah.
But the trueness of what it holds is not necessarily the dynamics of their relationship, even though that's one aspect of it, but more so just the mindsets that they individually had,
Mm.
the lens that they individually looked through. In their situation, it was centered around their relationship and how dysfunctional it was. But even for them to get to that place, that
Yeah.
perception had to be built up from something that was long before that.
Right.
Like I did the convo with my parents, and I was telling, my father how even me writing the character of Tyler was based off seeds of the relationship that he and I had, or the lack thereof.
Right.
The strain that had been there between him and I for so many years actually prompted me to be able to express those kind of feelings from Tyler, because I had my own version of that. Even though the stories are
Yeah.
completely different, the lens through which I looked through was birthed from that dysfunction.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why I really believe that no matter what walk of life anybody is in, what situation they're in, they can find something in these characters to identify with, because we've all been them in one way or another in some
Yes.
kind of situation. You
In
know?
some kind of situation, and I can recognize that because, like I said, looking from it, I know it was basically Tyler and Amber, a married couple, right? And
Hmm.
from my perspective, being single, I can see where it it planted seed in my head to how I would, could, should deal with a situation getting
Right.
into a marriage. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Hmm.
it's not per se a marriage counseling book, so to speak, but
Mm-hmm.
it's basically something that where we can gain from, learn from, and take away, the knowledge from that, from the experience of Tyler and Amber, to add towards what we are heading to in life, as
Right.
far as relationship is concerned. You
Right.
see, because with what from when I say that, I'm speaking from the point where, Tyler, you see, I'm now okay,
Yeah, choose
okay,
your words
okay,
carefully.
yeah, I'm okay,
It's so
okay,
hard.
okay.
It's so hard to bite your tongue up. Let's
Okay,
spill all
I'm
the
gonna try
tea.
and see if I can say it without giving it away. Okay,
Hmm.
and from Tyler perspective, when Amber was asking him that question, "Do you love me?"
Hmm.
His first mindset is to go towards material things.
Hmm.
So he start reeling out, "I bought you this, I bought you a
Right.
house, I bought you a car, I bought you this and that," and he just going into the material things of it, the situation,
Hmm.
which if and that's just like a male perspective in thinking that where they buy material things for their wife or spouse or girlfriend or whatever, thinking that that's equal to showing or expressing love. It is
Hmm.
not.
Right.
It is not. So from him jumping into that point, you know let me see that basically, okay, then now I know I'm not gonna do that.
Right, right,
I'm definitely not gonna try to repeat that what he did, because what he's saying now, I gave you, what's the song? I'm baby facing, I buy you clothes, I
right,
took you.
right. As soon as I get home from work, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
That don't account to the love that you were supposed to, because if you're speaking of love, it's a spiritual thing.
mm-hmm.
And coming from that perspective, that answer should be with what my action is towards you being hurt.
Right.
So you being hurt, I'm supposed to make sure that part of you is comforted
Mm-hmm.
with tenderness. You see, and if we approach it with that perspective, then the material things are basically automatic, so to speak, just like the blessing from God. As
Yeah.
long as you are in the will of God and doing the will of God, that blessing is automatic. It's not an exchange. Oh, you do this for God, He'll give you this house. You do this for God, He bless you with a car. No, that's not what it is.
Right.
Blessing is automatic,
Yeah.
because seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things would be added unto you.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So that's where I saw in Tyler and Amber
Mm-hmm.
marriage spat that they have. That's like more than a spat anyway. That was
Mm-hmm.
a blowout, right?
Oh, bro.
Basically, is
Oh,
what they
yeah,
were.
yeah. Look, that's why I call it a perfect
Yes, sir.
storm.
Exactly, exactly. So that's where I got that from, a single man's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What it's like, what to do and what not to do.
Right. That's
That's
very
what this
insightful.
journal. That's what
Very
this journal
insightful.
doing for me. Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir.
so now, I keep letting you talk. You talk forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and wind this down,
Yes, sir.
because
Yes,
there's
sir.
no way that we could make this short. There's so much more we could say, but I'm going to ask you this. Now, I've heard various opinions on the ending.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna ask you to give details, but in your most covert way,
Okay.
think about the way it ended.
My thoughts on the ending is, huh?
What was it, Troy?
I'm like,
Not the huh?
huh? Hold on. I'm shaking the back of the book to see if there's something else.
Seems some over fall
I was about to call you to ask you, where's the rest of it?
right?
Yes, yes, it's amazing. And if the thought is another one, brilliant work.
So that's the question now. Now I've been asked, am I going to write a sequel?
Hmm.
Now I've asked of several people, should there be a sequel? I've heard quite a few yeses. I've heard, of course you better. I've heard no. It's said everything you need to say it the way it is. Where do you fall in on um, that mindset?
I would like a sequel, because
Really?
yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. The
Okay.
beauty, the beauty of Raina
Mm-hmm.
conversation with Tyler at the time.
Impactful, wasn't it? Wasn't that impactful?
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Because
whole other level right
when
there.
I can't even say it. I can't even say it what I want to say, man. I can't even say it. But the interaction with Raina and Tyler, when
Mm-hmm.
she heard that, what the reason why he is where he is,
Mm-hmm.
and when she recognized that the same godliness
Mm-hmm.
still give her that calm and not even to even like go off or burst out and like, what? You did what? It it was amazing.
Look, let me stop you right there. I can honestly tell you, I got chills when I wrote that. I did because let me tell you why. When I wrote that part about Raina, Queen was she was my example board for that. That character at that moment, Reina is queen in Spanish.
Bro,
that character was drawn. That part of that character was drawn directly from Queen. And when I was thinking of what the dialogue would be, what would she would say to him in that moment, all I seen was my wife. And
yeah,
this is how these are the words she would say. That regalness, that strength, that surety of righteousness pouring out of her in the middle of the space that she was in herself. I
right.
seen Queen. And when I wrote it and read it back, it gave me chills. And I'm like, that's my wife right
Yes.
there.
Bro, bro,
Oh my
I
goodness.
know, bro, from a, I know your wife, bro.
Yeah.
And the moment I read
Hmm.
that part of it,
Hmm.
I just know this is her
Yeah.
all day, 24/7, not a made up version, not a, it's her
Yeah.
all day. That's
Yeah.
her. And that's exactly what, that's the reason why I would like the sequel to be
Ah.
in depth with
Yeah.
more
Yeah. And I've heard that. I've heard that. Directly somebody spoke on that. Hey, I think you should go with a part two in this direction. Yeah.
right,
That's a thought.
right,
That's a thought.
right, because that's what it is. And now, and another part of it, I want to see, Thibodeau reaction with Tyler whenever he, you know what I'm saying.
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
don't want to say that part. Yeah, I don't want to say that part of it. But that when Thibodeau get whatever it is,
Whatever.
I
Yeah,
want
you
that
saying
to
too
be,
much already.
yeah.
You're doing too much
That's
over
what
there,
I
bro.
want. I want to see the reaction on that part of it because that's what I'm basically like kind of hunger for because
Mm.
that would be the beauty of the whole thing, putting it all together. It's a taste.
If there's a reaction to be had. I mean,
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
so look,
exactly.
so
Exactly.
on our closing note, look, we've been into a whole other lane. On our
Okay.
closing note, um, in parting words, what is it that you like to share with the viewing audience in regards to the reason why they should get a copy of this book? What would you tell somebody about the need, necessity, urgency, the must have reason for getting this?
The simple reason for you to get a copy of this book, Looking Through the Fog by Folo Patterson, is it is a book that deals with every life situation. As far it don't have to be a marriage situation, it don't have to be like a relationship situation. It's like a foggy situation in every area or genre of your life, whatever it is. You have a foggy situation in finance. You have a foggy situation in house paying your bills, mortgage, at your job. It always there is something that is not clear to you in your life that you're
Mhm.
going through. And for you to understand by what this book is telling you and let you understand by looking to the fact that you needed someone, not something, but someone to guide you through that foggy situation. There
Mhm.
is help where this book will guide you and let you know who you need to get into to go through that foggy situation in your life, whatever it is in your life. Yes, sir.
Wow.
That's
Well,
what I
y'all heard
feel
it from
like it.
Troy himself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you heard it. Get you a copy of Looking Through the Fog. Once again, it is available at FoloPatterson.com, Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, WestBrookPress.com. It is readily available to pick up. Do not delay. Do not hesitate. We are not exaggerating or overselling the the ability to be blessed by this. We are speaking something that is true and factual. So we
Yes.
want you to experience this for yourself. And if you already have gotten a copy, and we thank you for doing so, we ask you please share the news with others. Please encourage your friends, your family, your loved ones to get a copy of this book. This not only is it entertaining, but as Troy himself said, this is life changing. So
Yes.
we hope you've
Yes, it is.
enjoyed this convo. Thank you, Troy, so much for taking the time to Zoom with me, my very first Zoom convo. I love it. We could have been talking for another hour very easily,
Yes, sir.
but I
Yes, sir.
appreciate you, brother, and I thank you for your time. And I look forward to having more conversations with you in the future.
Definitely. And thank you for having me, my brother. And I'm definitely enjoy this conversation, and hopefully we can continue this for another segment in the
Oh,
future.
we're gonna have to. We're gonna have to do a continuation because we left so much still
Definitely.
undone, unsaid. Yeah, we got many more layers to peel back. In the
Yes, sir.
meantime, y'all take care. Much love. FollowPatterson.com signing out. Peace.